afternoon, everybody. We have a group coming. Well, good afternoon, everyone. First, let me thank Mayor Pureval and Chief Theetge, City Manager Long, for all hosting us here today. Let me also recognize some of the others who are here. U.S. Marshal for the Southern District of Ohio, Michael Black. U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio, Dominic Gerace. Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections Director, Annette Chambers Smith. Ohio Department of Public Safety Assistant Director, Ben Suver. Jamie Patton, Executive Director of the Ohio Investigative Unit. Ohio State Highway Patrol Lieutenant Colonel Josh Swindell. And Hamilton County First Assistant Prosecutor Heidi Rosales. I want to thank everyone for being here. As you can see, we have assembled a group of local, state, and federal leaders. And we are here to announce what we are doing in Cincinnati. This is leaders who are dedicated to the safety of every citizen in the city of Cincinnati. We know that if you look at the situation involving violent crime, that whether it's Cincinnati or any other city or any other location in the state or across the country, there is a relatively small number of the criminal element who commit the vast majority of the violent crime. We're here today to talk to you about what we intend to do to target those violent and many, many times repeat violent offenders. Take them out of society, lock them up, and make Cincinnati safer. So today we're announcing the details of a new partnership between the agencies represented here. We will, in fact, target the violent criminals in the city who continuously disregard the law and disregard the welfare of their fellow citizens. Let me first talk about what we've been doing, and then we'll talk about what is new and what we have planned. When I took office as governor almost now 7 years ago, I asked our leaders at the Ohio Department of Public Safety to better position our Ohio State Highway Patrol as a support system for local law enforcement around the state of Ohio. And we looked at this to determine what we could do to be value added to local police departments when they were facing a difficult situation. We will be providing, and have been providing to different cities, additional manpower and technology in specific circumstances where local authorities, frankly, could use some help. Our troopers, since that time, since I became governor, have partnered with law enforcement officers in a number of cities: Cleveland, Columbus, Dayton, Youngstown, Toledo, and now Cincinnati. I don't have to tell anyone in this room about some of the terrible incidents that have happened recently. Since early August, our troopers have been supporting Cincinnati police by working regular shifts along I-75 and I-71 within city limits, primarily to free up the city police department so they can concentrate more on the violent offenders. State troopers, as well as those with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, Adult Parole Authority, and many other local agencies, have also been working as part of a special operation spearheaded by the U.S. Marshals Southern Ohio Fugitive Apprehension Strike Force Team. Over the past few weeks, this targeted initiative has focused specifically on individuals wanted for violent crimes in Cincinnati, as well as those who served out sentences in prison but have since violated the terms of their post-release control. This ongoing initiative has led to more than a dozen arrests so far. These are people who are wanted on charges such as arson, burglary, sexual assault, and murder. I want to commend the many agencies on the task force for this very excellent work. Now we're beefing up these state and federal partnerships in Cincinnati even more. And we'll talk about that in a moment. On the federal side, Cincinnati Police Department will soon join the U.S. Marshals Task Force to go after the region's most wanted fugitives. And again, you'll hear more about that in a moment. And I want to thank Cincinnati, thank the mayor and the chief for joining that very, very important effort. Now, on the state side, the city, the police department, and the state have signed an agreement to bring the Ohio State Highway Patrol into Cincinnati to begin carrying out regular violent crime reduction operations side by side with the local Cincinnati police. These joint operations will be data-driven, using information from Cincinnati's Crime Gun Intelligence Center. And by the way, they do phenomenal work. By focusing on hotspots where we know crime is high, teams will be targeting the worst of the worst offenders. The patrol will also provide aerial watch support, being the eye in the sky while our teams are on the ground. This is particularly helpful in cases where suspects think that they can outrun the law. Our aviation teams have over a 90% success rate in keeping up with fleeing suspects and showing local law enforcement exactly where these suspects are. Quite literally, criminals in Cincinnati can run, but they can't hide. Now, additionally, we'll be providing Cincinnati with support from our Ohio Investigative Unit, which is within the Ohio Department of Public Safety. This unit enforces Ohio's alcohol laws and will be paying increased attention to liquor establishments in high crime areas where patrons are known to sell drugs and who are known to illegally possess firearms. We know that most gun crimes are committed by individuals who aren't legally allowed to possess a gun anyway. Yet they do it anyway, and they're using these guns to kill people. These are the individuals we are particularly targeting. Violent offenders who are not legally allowed to have a gun today, yet persist in having guns and carrying guns, and then many times committing additional violent acts. Those are the individuals we're targeting. The U.S. Attorney's Office is putting the hammer down on individuals found illegally possessing firearms, and the U.S. Attorney will be talking about that in a moment. And I just want to say that this is an area where working closely with the U.S. Attorney is so very important. It's important because the federal law in this area is tougher than state law. When we're dealing with an offender who is not allowed to have a gun and then who is found in possession of the gun, the federal law is extremely tough. I wish that in the state of Ohio we had a law similar to that. This is not the day to get into that, but I would just say that I would again, call upon our state legislature to enact a law similar to what is at the federal level. What this means under the current situation, though, is when the Cincinnati Police Department come across a case, or we working with them come across a case where we have an individual who's a violent offender, we know they're dangerous, they've committed crimes in the past, we find them in possession of a gun, this is the type case that we will be literally walking over to the U.S. Attorney's Office and asking them if they will take the case and prosecute that individual in federal court. And that's why the U.S. Attorney will play such a significant role in regard to that. As I said, the U.S. Attorney will tell you more about those plans, but first, let me turn now over to the Mayor. Mayor? Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome into Cincinnati City Hall. On behalf of the city, I want to thank our partners for being here at the table, supporting Cincinnati as we continue to work to make Cincinnati as safe and vibrant as possible for our residents. Particularly in our urban core, we have managed real safety challenges during the summer months, from combating violence to addressing the street-level crimes that impact local Cincinnatians and small businesses, to the impact that all of these crimes are having long-term on our community. It is the responsibility as city leaders to keep our city safe, and we take that very seriously, which is why we are here today talking about an expanded partnership with our state and federal partners. In collaboration with our police, city council, our residents and business leaders, we have not relented and will not relent in making the investments and adjustments to our plan to address those ongoing challenges. And that work has resulted in meaningful progress on the concerning trends we've experienced since the start of this summer. Street-level crimes like theft from cars and burglaries have dramatically dropped, with property crimes now down year over year citywide. However, violent crime continues to be a challenge. While it is down, we have seen a positive shift, especially in target areas of our city like our downtown and OTR, and our residents and businesses continue to face challenges. We will not stop continuing to press hard to make sure that Cincinnati is safe, but critically, that all Cincinnatians feel safe. That is why we have been so proactive in our public safety response, and it is why we are eager to partner with the state to expand upon our work. From our CDRT and SWAT teams out in our busiest areas during peak times, particularly on the weekends, to the CPD task force patrolling our hotspot areas, to every officer on our streets serving residents, our local law enforcement has worked night and day throughout the summer to change these concerning crime trends and to make Cincinnati safer for everyone. It is thanks to their efforts and thanks to the partnerships that we have at the businesses, community, state, and federal level that everything else in our city is possible. And I want to thank them for their work to create the positive progress we have seen. Preventing violent crime is and continues to be our singular top priority in City Hall, in our budget, in our words, and in our partnerships. And I am extraordinarily grateful to the Governor, Mike DeWine. He did not hesitate to come to the table and offer to bolster the state's collaboration with local law enforcement. His leadership is making a difference, not just in Cincinnati, but across the state. His collaboration, his effective governance continues to lift Cincinnati, and I look forward to this ongoing partnership and its positive impact on our residents. This MOU with the state of Ohio is another step in the work our police do each and every day, as well as the collaborations we maintain with our state and local partners. State Highway Patrol and other resources, as the Governor mentioned, will be backing up our officers in areas ranging from aviation assistance to increased traffic enforcement that frees up our officers to focus on violent crime, to targeted joint operations in hotspot areas that we identify. This support helps strengthen our local law enforcement at a time when we're already asking so much of our officers. We are never claiming victory as long as challenges persist in our communities. CPD is in active conversations as we speak, as the Governor mentioned, with federal and state partners around enhanced enforcement and tracking of parole violators, which continues to be a serious concern that we have here locally. So thank you to the U.S. Marshals Service, thank you to the governor, and thank you to Chief Theetge for continuing to prioritize our efforts to crack down on parolee violators. But I do believe this moment is an opportunity to emphasize the fact that it benefits everyone when all levels of government are aligned, and we are. We take violent crime very seriously, and today's announcements are our efforts being put into reality to crack down on these criminals who have for too long been wreaking havoc, particularly in our urban core and throughout our city. Just last week, Ohio State Highway Patrol command staff joined local businesses and community leaders for a conversation about the details and the significance of the collaborative agreement in Cincinnati. And I'm proud to see their commitment in this MOU and in their actions to ensuring that our partnership lives up to the goals of the collaborative. I again want to thank the governor and his entire team for taking our collaborative as seriously as we do and doing the work necessary to live up to its values. We are exceptionally proud of our law enforcement and community relationships and the model that Cincinnati has built for problem-solving oriented policing. Our processes here are a foundational part of our maintaining community trust, transparency, accountability, and ultimately the well-being of our constituents. So we greatly appreciate the governors and our state partners, our Highway Patrol, and all others coming to Cincinnati for making the effort to engage with our collaborative and embody our values. We all collectively have work ahead of us, but there is positive momentum in Cincinnati, and I want to reiterate my gratitude for everyone at the table helping make sure our community succeeds. I'll now welcome Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Theetge.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. What a wonderful day here in Cincinnati. We've got great weather. We've got fantastic partners standing here behind me. As I've said before, and I will continue to say, there is always room at the Cincinnati Police Department's table when our mission of public safety aligns. Whether it's safeguarding our children, securing our neighborhoods, or protecting those who choose to call Cincinnati home or invest in our city by opening a business, we stand ready to partner. Everyone in this room understands when we talk about public safety, the stakes are high, sometimes tragically high. The cost can be dire, especially for the innocent. That's why we must get this right. The management of crime was never meant to be easy, and it was never meant to be done alone. It demands collaboration. It demands partnerships as steadfast and dynamic as the threats we face. And it demands the ability to pivot at the speed of lightning, because that's how fast crime can change. That's how quickly lives can change. Here in Cincinnati, we've long embraced that truth. The Cincinnati Police Department has always valued working shoulder to shoulder with our federal, state, and local partners. One shining example of this commitment is the creation of Ohio's first ever Crime Gun Intelligence Center, right here in our city. This center didn't happen by accident. It took the combined strength, diverse skills, and relentless effort of many agencies. And the results speak for themselves. Since 2022, we've seen double-digit reductions in shooting victims. This significant reduction does not just happen without strategic intervention. It's proof of what's possible when we unite under a shared mission of public safety. To the men and women of CPD, your dedication is unmatched. But today, we don't just stand with CPD. We stand with a force multiplier. Our expanding partnerships mean we have more eyes, more hands, and more hearts committed to the cause of safety. Let's build on what's working. Let's strengthen existing crime prevention strategies. Let's bring even more boots to the ground, forge new alliances, and stay strategic in how we respond. Because when we combine our efforts, when we share our knowledge and resources, we are stronger, faster, and smarter. We owe it to the people of this city to keep pushing forward. Let's not tarnish the progress we've made across Cincinnati and the great state of Ohio. Let's roll up our sleeves and continue the work that still needs to be done. And let me be crystal clear. The only people who should feel uncomfortable right now are those who seek to cause harm to people, to neighborhoods, to property. If you are committing violence or threatening our communities, know this: we are united and we are coming. To our community, today is a message loud and clear. We are growing our partnerships. We are locking arms with those who are committed to safety, justice, and progress. And together, we will ensure Cincinnati remains safe and vibrant for all. Lastly, I want to thank a few members, the OSP, Ohio State Patrol, and the Ohio Investigative Unit who are up here with me. Thank you very much for your partnership. And I'm going to turn it over to our U.S. Marshal, our local U.S. Marshal, Mr. Michael Black.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor DeWine and Mayor Pureval, for the invitation to be here today. One of our core missions is to assist our law enforcement partners with violent crime reduction. We do that by collaborating with state, local, and federal law enforcement agencies to remove violent criminals from our neighborhoods. Every time we can successfully apprehend a violent fugitive, it eliminates an opportunity for them to commit another crime in our neighborhoods. We are extremely grateful for the partnership we have with the Cincinnati Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners. We will also be looking for assistance from the community. It is essential for us to remain committed together as we strive to keep our neighborhoods safe. You can contribute by providing anonymous tips to help us locate and apprehend these individuals that negatively impact the quality of life for us all. We look forward to working together and bringing all violent criminals who are attempting to find refuge in the Cincinnati area to justice. At this time, I'm honored to introduce the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio, Dominic Gerace.
Thank you, Marshal Black. I'm grateful to be here today with Governor DeWine and Mayor Pureval and all the rest of the attendees here to reinforce our federal support for the partnerships being announced today. I think it's notable, as a couple of the other speakers have already mentioned, that we are represented here by every level of government, federal, state, and local. And that's because we all care about the same exact thing, which is stopping violent crime and protecting our communities. As the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer in the Southern District of Ohio, I want the public to know that the federal government and federal law enforcement care very deeply about local crime and about what's going on in the streets of our communities. I also want to be clear that our office absolutely is committed to these partnerships, and we will support those partnerships by bringing federal prosecutions where warranted and appropriate. The federal prosecutors that work in my office don't just work on national and international level cases. We have a long history of working with our federal, state, and local partners to bring cases that have impact at the street level against drug dealers, against violent criminals, against repeat offenders, and against those who possess firearms illegally. As Governor DeWine mentioned, our federal charges carry stiff penalties, and we'll bring those charges from investigations that occur or start at any level, local, state, or federal. And that includes investigations that come off of operations that result from the partnerships that are being announced today. So I want the public to know that the federal government and federal law enforcement is paying attention to what's going on in our communities, and that we're here to help, and we will help. Finally, I just want to commend the leaders here today for coming together to marshal resources to ensure the safety of those who live and work in Cincinnati. It is absolutely vital that we all work together at every level of government to fight crime and to keep our community safe. Thank you. I'll now turn it back over to Governor DeWine.
We'll be happy to take any questions.
Governor, can I just clarify a few issues? One, you said state police will now be on the streets of Cincinnati versus just on 71 and 75 in the city of Cincinnati. What should citizens expect in that regard? So they will be, like, walking the streets of Cincinnati, in cars on the streets of Cincinnati? Explain that.
My guess is that the average citizen who's going about their business will not notice any difference. You know, this is a targeted operation. There's no substitute, frankly, for very, very, very close cooperation, in this case between different law enforcement agencies and the Highway Patrol here and the Cincinnati Police Department. So a lot of it's intelligence driven. You also are our investigative unit, which most people don't really know a whole lot about, but you know, they have, frankly, the ability to target liquor places, frankly, where you see a lot of people with guns and people who are not supposed to have guns. So for the average citizen, you're not going to walk down in downtown, you're not going to see any difference. You're not going to see probably a difference in the neighborhoods. But our experience has been, in every other city where we have done this, that we have some real results. Again, the thing I think people need to understand is every city in this state, every city in this country has a relatively small number of violent criminals who cause 80 to 90% of the violence. There are a relatively small number even of the whole criminal element. These are the individuals that we are going after, and these are the individuals that we need to get off the street.
So the,
It appears that the vast majority of people here are in law enforcement, obviously, but we don't see anyone from the judicial branch. And one of the big criticisms, at least locally, has been that it's a revolving door, that we have people getting arrested, then they're back out on the street.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's unusual that you would not see someone from the judicial branch here. I think that you have ethics problems with them standing up here, and you know, I don't think that is unusual at all. And I think it would be, you know, very unusual if you saw that. Look, I'm not going to get into individual decisions made by judges. I think the good thing for citizens to know, though, is that in the Ohio Constitution today, it now says that when bond is being set, the safety of the public has to be taken into consideration. That has been clarified. It is in the Constitution. The people put it there. And again, when bond is set, that has to be one of the criteria.
And then a quick follow-up. It appears that the mayor has said that the crime is down here. Why are we doing this now?
Well, the mayor certainly can speak to that. Let me go first since I'm at the microphone. Look, statistics, I'm not going to get into what the statistics are. The mayor knows those better in his own city than certainly the governor. The governor does. But it doesn't really help to tell a victim of crime, well, I know that you've been mugged, or I know you've had your family member killed, but, you know, the statistics are down. It's not an acceptable response. So we know that there's too much violent crime. In Cincinnati, we have violent crime other places. And we know that by banding together and targeting these individuals, we can make a huge difference. So that's why we do it. We do it because we can save lives this way.
Could I,
Yeah, Mayor, go ahead.
Could I respond? David, that's not what I said. I made very clear in my statements that the reason we are continuing to be so vigilant and intentional about crime is not just the statistics, which frankly show a mixed message, particularly in the downtown and OTR areas. And that coupled with the fact that many people who talk to me don't feel safe. It's important for the city to continue to invest not just in visibility with walking patrols, CDRT and SWAT, our bike patrols in the Fountain Square area, but also on enforcement. This specific help from the governor will particularly be helpful in enforcing our laws against some of the worst criminals who are responsible for the violence that we're seeing in our community. We are still working urgently on public safety. While it's important to be aware of the data, what's also important is to continue to respond from concerns from the community, and that's exactly what we continue to do.
Mayor, how long will these partnerships continue?
Well, let's go over here first, then we'll go over here.
Mayor, can you say what specific areas of Cincinnati are going to be targeted?
Yeah, as the governor mentioned, the highway patrol support will be in a lot of different areas. Aviation support will be through the entire city and will be directed based on the investigations that we're doing and ultimately the enforcement actions that those investigations lead us to. It's hard to predict where that's going to happen, but certainly we're very well aware, and we've published our data on where the hotspot activities are happening, not just in the urban core, but throughout our city. And you can be sure that we'll be targeting those areas.
How long will these partnerships continue? And Mayor, do you also have a message for the judges locally on perhaps being tougher in the courtroom?
Yeah, these partnerships will continue as long as we have willing partners and continue to see a need for them. The governor has been an extraordinary and willing partner throughout this summer, and I expect and hope that that partnership will continue. You know, my message to the judges continues to be, we have serious public safety challenges that we're facing from city leadership, from our local law enforcement, and it is a recurring message that I hear from our police officers that they feel frustrated. They feel frustrated that they do all of this work, all of this investigative work, then the enforcement work, and unfortunately they see folks that they apprehend back on the street much sooner than they expect. The chief has been working diligently on this since really the beginning of the summer in collaboration with the County Chiefs Association. I expect that work to continue, and I expect us to be on the same page as our judiciary. Now, as the governor mentioned, these are independently elected folks who are bound by ethical rules that prevent them from speaking publicly about some issues, but I'm confident we can overcome those challenges in order to make our community safer together as one team.
Let me just add a couple, and then we'll get to you. Let me just add a couple things in response to the question. First of all, we're going to stay here as long as Cincinnati wants us to stay here. So we're going to be involved as long as the city wants us to do that. Second, in regard to judges, I think one of the things that's important to keep in mind is that the people we are targeting, people we're going after, all are offenders. So, and in most of the cases, I would predict that when we bring these individuals in, they're going to be someone who's committed a violent offense and someone who has a gun. So those are factors, all factors that the prior offense, the fact that person had a gun, those are all factors that the judge should take into consideration. Again, I would emphasize the Constitution is now very, very clear, and that is a judge can take that into consideration, take into consideration the fact of the safety of the public. This is what we're dealing with. When a judge makes a decision about how to set bond, it has a direct impact on the safety of the community. It has a direct impact on future victims. It's a heavy, heavy responsibility.
Governor.
You mentioned violent crime, that of course is an issue in other cities in Ohio and as well as across the country. Is this partnership being employed in Columbus, Cleveland, other cities in Tennessee?
Yes, this partnership, and let me just make it very, very clear. We have a limited number of people, so you're not going to see a lot of troopers on the streets, but we do know that from the different departments that we have talked about, whether it's the parole people, whether it's the highway patrol, whether it's our investigative unit, all of these working together with, obviously working together with the Cincinnati Police Department can make a significant difference. But yes, we come in when we're asked to come in. We've done this in Cleveland. We've done it in Toledo. We've done it in Dayton. We've done it in Youngstown. So there's a model here of what we have done. Can we do it every day, every place in the state of Ohio? No, we do not have the resources to do that. What we're not, make it very clear, we're not adding a huge number of people. What we are adding, we think, is some expertise in this area and the sharing of information with the Cincinnati Police Department. The Cincinnati Police Department does a good job. These are good men and women. They know what they're doing. So we hope to be value add, and we believe we will be value add to what they do.
Now, Governor or Mr. Gerace, this might be also a question for you. In regards to federally prosecuting these gun crimes, these violent offenders found with guns, our investigative team recently sat down with ATF agents, with, I believe, the U.S. Attorney of Southern District of Ohio's office, talking about the pressure of not having enough agents, of not having enough prosecutors. So if there is perhaps a struggle there just handling those regular cases as is, do you feel confident that you are equipped to handle this new caseload?
Thank you. Yes, I do feel confident that we're equipped to handle it. One of the things that we mentioned was, we have good partnerships with federal in our local PDs, in the Cincinnati PD, for example. We don't need necessarily a federal agent to be on every single one of these cases. Now, they help sometimes. They have to run different checks in terms of interstate nexus for guns and do certain tasks like that. But we can take cases where a gun is seized at a traffic stop from a CPD officer on a violent offender, someone with prior offenses for aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary. We also, screen these cases, and as the governor mentioned, we're looking at taking these cases on repeat violent offenders, folks that warrant federal attention. And so I'm confident we have the resources. I'm confident that we will get the resources we need. We're engaging in partnerships with Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office, with Connie Pillich's office, to make sure that we have an open line of communications when we have an offender who potentially is subject to some state charges and also federal charges. We can look at that person and say, okay, where's the best bang for the buck? Should this go state? Should this go federal? So again, it's all about the partnerships here. It's all about the relationships between law enforcement, relationships between prosecutor's office, and I'm 100% confident that we have enough resources to get the job done.
Let me just add, go ahead. Let me just add, Heidi, you may have some comment on this as well. Look, the way these cases are historically worked up, and that relationship between a U.S. attorney and the local prosecuting attorney is this way. The case is generally worked up fully by the time they go over to the U.S. attorney's office. So the primary work is going to be done at the police department level, at the prosecutor level here in Hamilton County, and then over to the U.S. attorney. And the reason they go to the U.S. attorney is the federal law is just a lot tougher when you have a violent offender who is carrying a gun. It's called weapons under disability. It's kind of a strange term, but that's what really we are talking about. And so the case will be worked up, and certainly they will they'll do their due diligence, but that investigation would normally not have to come from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Anything? Want to add this thing, Heidi? Yeah.
Thank you, Governor. The Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office has already had meetings with the the United States Attorney's Office. We have established those lines of communication. We're in the process of identifying just the cases that Mr. Gerace is referring to. And so we're actively already doing this. And we all understand that when we work collaboratively at all levels, our community is safer. And the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office is absolutely committed to that. Thank you, Governor.
Let's talk a little bit about the prospect of the National Guard coming into cities like Cincinnati or other places. Is an act like this of partnering up and bringing in more resources a way to stop that from happening, a way to potentially work with that? What's the situation with that?
Well, it's being done because it's an effective way to save lives. It's an effective way to have fewer victims. It's an effective way to go after criminals. It's not done for any other reason besides that. When you're dealing with other law enforcement agencies who work with the local police department, what you have is all the individuals, that's what they do. That's what they do every day. And so their focus is on crime. Police focus generally is on crime. Ohio State Highway Patrol, when they come in under these circumstances and work with the local police department, that focus is on crime. So it's just a very different situation.
Mr. Gerace.
If I could weigh in on that question as well. You know, from the city's perspective, there is absolutely no reason to even consider sending in the National Guard to Cincinnati. Not only would it be a massive waste of resources, but it would ultimately make our city less safe. I'm proud to be partnering with the governor to actually make our city safe by giving us the resources and the manpower to continue to crack down on violent criminals through enforcement. That's exactly why we're here. Because of that collaboration, because of that partnership, ultimately Cincinnati will be safer.
Chief Theetge, I have two questions for you, if you don't mind. I know you've been very on the forefront of this revolving door of injustice, and you talked about that round table with fellow police chiefs and the judicial system. Can you talk to us about where that stands? And also when it comes to this patrolling, I know you used to have a partnership, and it still might be in effect with the county. Are they still part of that plan for you, or is the state going to come in and take that patrolling away?
Okay, so I'll take your first question first. Yes, I've been working with the Hamilton County Police Chiefs Association to try to figure out where are the holes in our judicial system and how can those gaps be closed. This isn't just about whether or not the judges are letting offenders out. It is also kind of a self-reflection. As law enforcement, are we doing everything that we should be doing to ensure that they stay behind bars? Because if we're not, we need to fix that. It is also a conversation with the prosecutor's office. They are committed to wanting to make sure they are doing everything to close any potential gaps in this system. Because the only way the system is going to work, the way it's supposed to work, is if law enforcement, prosecutors, judges, all look at where the gaps are and commit to closing those gaps. So this is really trying to kind of kickstart a partnership with the judicial system, the prosecutors and law enforcement in the county. Where that stands now, I believe I'm not on the executive board for the Hamilton County Chiefs. The executive board is driving this process. I believe their next step is to have some public forums for people, citizens, to talk about where they feel like the judicial system is letting them down. And so I'm sure they will make that public for everybody when that is available. Your second question about the Sheriff's Department, I do want to thank Sheriff McGuffey for stepping up for 30 days to patrol the Court Street area for us. They had a great impact there, but that 30 days has expired, and we will now be working within CPD and with our partners to kind of fill that gap there as well.
Mr. Gerace.
Go ahead.
During the press conference, Mayor Pureval, you reiterated that parole violations is a serious
Yep,
issue.
absolutely.
4 parole substations, probation substations were closed down, probation officers slashed in half. Can you just talk about what this new package that you're accepting is going to do in that area, and what's your message to the people that are concerned?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that the county determines those funding decisions and personnel decisions with respect to probation and parole. But our focus has not changed based on that news. We take parole violations very seriously. The chief has been working with both the U.S. Marshal Service to participate in this task force, but also has been working with State Representative Cindy Abrams to advocate for some state law changes in order to empower us and collaborate more effectively with state partners to crack down on parole violations. That is what we can control, and that is our direction to make sure that that anyone who is violating their parole, cutting their bracelet, not showing up when they need to be, are held accountable. Particularly, we are targeting folks with a violent criminal past.
Is it going to make your job a little more difficult because some of the incentives that they're offering is, skipping parole visits with their officer or giving them candy bars for good behavior? Is this going to make it more difficult to achieve what you guys are trying to do?
Providing candy bars to people has nothing to do with me. I'm not sure how that's relevant. I will say that we need strong partners at the county level, at the federal level, and at the state level, and we feel confident that we have those partnerships. Look, no one in this community wants violent crime. Everyone that I meet, both leaders and law enforcement and elected officials, want us to continue to prioritize bringing violent crime and bringing violent criminals to justice. And that's what this announcement is specifically pointed towards.
What is it going to cost? What is it going to cost for this extra manpower? What is it going to cost for this extra manpower? And where's that funding coming from?
I don't know the exact dollars, but these are officers who would have been somewhere else in the state if they weren't here. So they're being paid just like they'd normally be paid. So.
Chief, can you talk
Yes.
about the chain of command when they're here, when they're working collaboratively with your officers?
I'll take that.
Who are they
Sure.
gonna be?
Cincinnati Police Department is always in charge.
And how will they work on conflicts together? Is that going to?
They'll work conflicts out, I'll guarantee you. We're used to working with the Cincinnati Police Department. We have great confidence in them. I think, as you can imagine, the most important thing when you have officers from different departments is, do they trust each other, and do they work well together, and do they have confidence in their fellow law enforcement officer? And the answer is yes, they do. So they're going to work well together. That's not going to be a problem.
Mr. Gerace, it's my understanding that between 2016 and 2020, the feds, your office, we're taking on these gun cases. But somehow, sometime around 2020, that stopped. Can you address why that stopped and what was working went away?
I really can't address what you're telling me, why it may have stopped. I'm not sure that that's accurate or whether it is or not. What I can tell you is that under my watch, the U.S. Attorney's Office is taking these cases. We're dedicated to supporting these partnerships. We're dedicated to eradicating the city of Cincinnati of street-level crime, of gun violence, and folks that are terrorizing our communities. I'd have to go back and look at sort of the CR numbers that are filed in federal court. I've never been aware of a policy of not taking these types of cases. These are cases that the Southern District of Ohio has taken throughout its existence, frankly, since the federal felon in possession of a firearm statute has existed, and will continue to do that.
We have time for one more question.
Who else?
I've got a question for our city leaders here. Just based on what we've heard today, we take violent offenders seriously, we want to crack down on parole offenders. Would you say the Patrick Harrington case was a turning point?
I think, look, all violent crime is incredibly seriously, but we take that incredibly seriously. But there's no doubt that the particularly shocking nature of someone breaking into your home in the middle of the night and stabbing someone to death is awful. So isn't an 11-year-old playing outside of their own home in the early evening and a drive-by shooter shooting off, I think, 37 rounds in the matter of 2 seconds, shooting that 11-year-old in the head and having them die in front of their entire family. Every crime is shocking. Every crime is unacceptable, particularly the violent crimes. Throughout the entire summer, this council, this administration, and I have taken huge steps in interventions, both on visibility and enforcement. In very specific crime segments, we are seeing positive progress. However, it's not enough, which is why we are continuing to deepen our relationship with the governor and his law enforcement resources, because again, we take this very seriously, and we will not relent until everyone in the city feels safe. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.